Welcome again to at CCLI. I'm Paul Herman, here with my friend Micah Tyler.
Hey,
Micah, it is so good to have you here.
It's so good to be here in your digs. This is awesome, man.
I was looking forward to this for a long time. Now, I understand that you're nominated as the New Artist of the Year for a Dove Award.
Yeah.
But I also know that you've been at this for a while. So can you tell us your story?
Yeah, man. So I actually, music has always been something in our home that we loved.
Yeah.
But I'm a first generation musician. And it actually came late for me. When I was 17, felt the calling to go into youth ministry.
Yeah.
And so right out of high school, my high school sweetheart at the time, who's now my wife of almost 14 years, her grandpa was the chairman of the deacons at a little church. So I became a youth pastor there when I was 18. Served in youth ministry for 9 years and loved it. And in the midst of that, when I was 20, I wanted someone to lead worship for my students before I would preach.
Yeah.
And none of them had any instruments, and I thought, well, I'll go buy a guitar. So I bought a guitar and I brought it in there, and then none of those kids learned it, so I was like, well, I guess I should just learn a song. And so I would learn one song, I'd lead that one song until they got tired of it, and then I would learn another one, so we'd have 2 songs. And so I had no idea that it was going to end up being something, because again, growing up, like our school wasn't even big enough to have a choir by the time I graduated, and I had no musical background. I took band in like 7th grade, but that was the end of my music education. And so playing music was something I started doing because I loved it and because I wanted something out of necessity. From there, I started leading worship for friends, started kind of doing different little events and camps and weekend retreats and that kind of stuff, just kind of helping buddies out. And had no idea at 27 the Lord was going to call us to that. And so it wasn't because we knew someone in Nashville, it wasn't because we had a record label or anybody that was looking at us. It was just like we felt like that the Lord was calling us to be faithful, and faithful looked like this crazy thing. And so we ended up selling over half of what we owned. We bought a single wide mobile home trailer, put it on borrowed land. I started doing some odd jobs. I was a substitute teacher at an elementary school, and I also drove a sausage delivery truck, which is a real job.
Wow.
How do you think you get your sausage? It's me. I was the one that gave it. And so just started doing that, man. And again, playing a few things. Had some guys that were playing with me at the time. And the Lord, even in the midst of it being super hard, because I've got my wife and we had 2 kids at the time, now we have 3. And it was just this big crazy sacrifice that we were looking at, not to try to become something or be nominated for a Dove Award or be on a tour, those kind of things. It was just faithful. And so in the midst of that, though, ended up meeting people, some mutual friends of yours. Jenny Riddle was somebody who was so kind to me and the People in Songs community. And then from there, it just kind of turned into me starting to open up for guys. And I was leading worship at different places. I was never a worship pastor on staff at a church, but I still lead at camps and retreats and that kind of thing. And then it turned into me just writing and the Lord kind of developing and carving some more things out of me. And we're sitting here today in CCLI 7 years later, kind of at the end of a crazy run right now.
Yeah, well, that's great.
Yeah.
So you've also become pretty well known for a parody video you did called Gotta Love Millennials.
Yeah.
Tell us about that one.
That was a really fun mistake. Not a mistake, I don't want to call it that, but it was one of those crazy things that was an accident. So in the midst of me traveling, I ended up partnering up with a church, Watermark Church over in Dallas. And it's an incredible church, and I did a couple of events for them, and I started doing these a cappella 4-part harmony kind of introduction video for some of their people. And so like I did an event, and I did one for Matt Chandler, who's a pastor over in the DFW area, and Shane and like just different things like that. And they asked me, they said, can you come in to this leadership conference we're doing? We're going to offer it to church leaders from all over the world. They're going to come in, and we just want you, instead of introducing our people, like our missions pastor, why don't you like do a song about missionaries? And why don't you do a song about Christianese? So I made a Rosetta Stone commercial on how to speak Christianese, which is my personal favorite one. But also made this video about millennials, and I'm a millennial, and so half of this song probably came out of my mirror. And so it was one of those things. They wanted me to come up and basically just like list all the stereotypes attached to a subject, and they were going to come behind it and talk about how millennials are more than Instagram selfies and coffee posts and man buns and facial hair. Like it's just like this whole thing, and so it's just so tongue in cheek. And again, was supposed to be meant for 700 people in a room, and they just told me, they said, this thing went over so well, do you mind if we post it? And I was like, yeah, you post it on Facebook, just tag me in it. And so I'm actually sitting in Nashville about to go to a radio conference, And all of a sudden, I'm rehearsing with these guys, and my phone starts going, vroom, vroom, vroom. I'm going, what is happening? And I didn't even know they had posted. I pulled it up, and I had all these texts, and one of them was my wife, and she goes, oh my gosh, it has 18,000 views. And I'm going, what has 18,000 views? And I looked, and it was the Millennial video, and it had been up for less than an hour. And I was like, oh, well, this is a thing now.
Yeah.
And so 150 million views later, I mean, like legitimately, collectively, 150 million. It was one of those things that was supposed to be seen by 700, so there's roughly 150 million more views to it than what we had thought. But it's one of those things that, like, the Lord knows better than we do about introductions. And not only did this get into churches and people who are Christians kind of got to see another side of what I do,
right.
But it also reached out, and I have people that are coming to my page and they're saying like, man, I was looking for more of your, they thought I was the Weird Al of Christian music. They're like, I was looking for more of your parody music, and I found all this Jesus stuff, and man, that's really cool. What does this lyric mean? And I got to share the gospel with people from literally all over the planet because of this silly little video that was made just trying to be faithful to that one little situation. So I'm not necessarily going to stake my claim on being that guy from now on. I try to be a real boy at the same time.
Right.
And when it first came out, I was actually afraid. I thought to myself, man, Lord, we've sacrificed. Like I said, we've sold everything we own, and we're trusting you every day. And I'm now going to be known as this joke. Yeah. But me and the Lord was so kind to like bring that forward, and now we've been able to use that just kind of as an opportunity to introduce ourselves to more people and get the gospel out there in some ways that were a little bit more unconventional than we were expecting.
Wow. So your new project, it's called Different.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that title track?
For me personally, it's one of the most personal. Like that song was supposed to be probably left in the prayer closet. You know, my whole life has been a series of me feeling like Psalm 139 is a punishment. You know, being uniquely made is something that's kind of like wrong with me. Because I remember being in high school and feeling like I didn't think the same way as people. I didn't act the same way. My sense of humor was different. And I just thought to myself, gosh, if I could just be like these people, and I still do that. I'm still going like, if I could just like sing like Bart Millard, or if I could just dress like Zach Williams, or something like that. Like I'm not cool enough to pull off a leather jacket. But I still find myself comparing those things. But what I'm learning is that what the Lord calls unique, He also calls wonderful. And so this song was kind of birthed out of there. And for me, every 6 months, it feels like He reteaches the song to me in a different way. And right now, the last couple of months have been really hard for me and for my family. In the midst of so many incredible things, and the Dove nominations, and the songs being played on the radio, and like all these, I'm on these tours right now with heroes of mine. We're walking through a tough season. We found out that my grandmother, right before I was leaving to go on this tour, my grandmother has blood cancer. I live in Texas, and a week into the Big Daddy Weave tour that I'm currently on, I get a call from my wife saying that Hurricane Harvey is headed for our house. So I flew home early and was able to sit in my home with my wife and our 3 kids as 44 inches of rain fell on our house in 2 days. And then a couple of weeks ago, we just found out that my little brother Daniel, who's 30, has colon cancer. And we found out yesterday that it's stage 4 and it's in a couple of different places. And he's actually today at a doctor's office trying to figure out what that treatment plan is. And so the song for me, what I thought was just kind of this personal journey kind of thing for me. And like it was more of a song of what I realized in the past. I'm learning right now that the Lord walks us through things that we would never choose. And it's in that trust of Him and believing that He doesn't walk us through things that are mistakes. And it's us realizing that sometimes we can't change the things around us. I'm sitting in my house and I have my phone, it just has these alarms that are going off, and these tornado warnings and flood warnings, and I have to turn it down because it's scaring my kids. And I'm just like, God, can you just like stop like all this stuff out here? And He didn't. 44 inches of rain just kept coming, and cancer just kept showing up in our family. But what I'm learning is that even though we can't, sometimes He doesn't change the things outside of us. He can change the stuff inside of us so that we can handle the things that He's walking us through. And He's so good, man. He's so good to sometimes He does. Sometimes He just shows up in those storms and He says, peace be still, and all of it's there. And sometimes he shows up in the middle of our storms and he tells us, peace be still. And we're able to just kind of sit in that while the storm is raging around us and just have the same kind of peace as if it was this beautiful day outside. And so I can't tell you that every day I wake up in just this peaceful, everything's magical and wonderful. But I do say at the end of each day, the Lord is still just as good as he was when everything just felt okay. And Difference, one of those songs for me that he is, even though I wrote it a couple of years ago, he's still teaching it to me. And so we're in the midst of learning it in a whole new way right now. And he is good to be a God that continues to refine, and he's still with my family, and he's still been good. And now we're just waiting to see what this next thing is going to be.
Yeah. There's another song on the album called The Story I Tell that I love. So I'd love to hear you talk about that one too.
Yeah, man. So I actually, as a youth pastor, it was one of those funny things that subconsciously I've been writing this song for a while. And I started, I would go to preach a sermon. I was like, tonight I think I'm going to preach about the blind beggar. What was his name? I'd go through and I was like, oh, it isn't listed on there. Okay. And then a little bit later I'd be like, okay, the woman at the well, I should preach on the woman. What was her name? I can't find her name anywhere. And I finally realized, I was like, I wonder how many times someone's life is changed by their encounter with Jesus in the Gospels, in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, where their story is told, but their name is never mentioned. And I went through and I counted, and there's 27 times. And it's crazy because we think like the 5,000, they don't know any names in that story. The boy who fell ill, we don't know that name, and the leper, and what's crazy is we still call them by what they used to be.
Yes.
We don't call him the guy who can see, we call him the blind man. We don't call him the guy who is healed, we call him the leper. And so what's crazy is I encounter people every single day doing ministry that still walk around like that. They've encountered Jesus, but they feel like they're still known by what they used to be. And so I brought this song from my friend Jenny Riddle, had this idea for it. And it's, it really glorifies my lack of musicianship because the song has 2 chords in it for 90% of the song, and then we added in a third at the very end for some magic. But again, it just kind of tells that whole story, and the bridge flips to that there are still nameless faces all over this world right now. The homeless we walk by on the street, and the kid in the African village that we maybe can write a check to go help. Those people have names and they have stories and they're worth telling. And so, it's a kind of a personal challenge song for me. I've sent that song to missionaries all over the planet, just kind of encouraging with that. But it's still one of those songs that to me, when it's hard for me to walk by someone and forget that there's a story that God has written for that person that's just as important, that is just as special, that is just as thought out as my own story. And so that's where it came from.
Nice. So there's another song that you co-wrote with some of, again, our mutual friends, Crystal Yates and Josh Sherman, What Mercy Did for Me. I talked to them about kind of their memories and their recollections of writing the song. Love to hear yours as well.
That was one of those, you get in a room with Josh Sherman and Crystal Yates, and it's gonna be a good day. Just if you can write a bad song and they sing it, it still feels fine. And so there's that danger of just riding around our voices, and we sit there, and I remember the conversation going through of what are we gonna write today? Because I want to write from my own perspective. I never want to try to write a song that I can't actually walk out and mean. I want every song to be out of my bones. And so we started just talking about, what are some reasons to love the Lord? And we talked about His grace, we talked about His goodness, we talked about His faithfulness, and then His mercy came up. And Crystal has a very specific testimony that goes along with God's mercy. Josh has a testimony with God's mercy. We all have our own. Because I think the cool thing about mercy is that God didn't have to offer that to us. He's still just as good without mercy. But His mercy is something that He offers to us as another level of His goodness. He is still good and just on His own, but the fact that He looks down to His creation and offers mercy, it really shows the beauty and the sincerity of who He is, not just as a creator, but also as a friend. You want your friends to be merciful. And so the fact that we have a friend in Jesus that can do that is such a it's such a special trait of His. And so we sat down and just started talking about the mercy of the Lord. And I had this idea, and I just thought, so I started playing chords. And if you listen to the song, what I love about it is the song starts with a minor chord and starts walking itself down. And so if you listen to the verses, it's more of the disparity part, it's more the harder part of it. So it's going down, and the chords go walk itself down to get to the one chord. When the chorus starts up, it goes in reverse. It goes from it starts walking itself up because it's that feeling of when we encounter Jesus and his mercy,
Yeah.
automatically things start pointing
there's
towards
that
him.
lift.
Yeah, because how can we deny his mercy? People, sometimes we don't want justice, but we always love mercy.
Yeah.
We don't want justice brought against us. We love mercy. If you're in a court, sometimes if you've done something wrong, you don't want the judge to just be just and just to tell you, because of this, you are this. But anyone who offers us mercy, we're so quick to receive that and take that. Yeah. So to me, when we encounter mercy, it's that feeling of living, and it's us being able to like take that into our bones, and just like we're so grateful for that. So it was fun being able to like, I got to sit back, and as the lyrics were being written and as we were coming up with melodies, I was like, man, what if we just kind of walk this thing around? And so that's kind of the nerdy fun part in the background for me. But also just the song, I feel like it's such a celebration of, how can we not be grateful and celebrate that the Lord, who has no reason other than he could just sit and be great, came down and laid his life down for us so that we could have this beautiful gift of mercy. Yeah. And so the song just kind of started writing itself from there. It was fun.
Oh, amazing.
It's one of my favorites.
Any final thoughts for our worship leaders and worship teams out there in the CCLI churches?
I'm a firm proponent of understanding songs that you sing. I feel like honesty is something that is so much more important than what's the next big worship song. If you can't mean those things, if you can't shepherd those moments, because the situation I run into as a songwriter, when I walk off of a stage and someone asks me, what did you mean by this lyric? Or they start telling me their story, if I cannot understand what they're asking me, if you're singing a song about the Lord's mercy, but you've never really appreciated mercy, how can you honestly deliver that to them? Yeah. And then how can you actually live that out when you walk off? So I'm a firm proponent, and I love how CCLI does this, where like there's scripture attached to things, and there's some of these videos that you guys are putting out where it explains the heartbeat behind the song. I'm a documentary junkie. And so for me, I love being able to understand like where things are coming from and why they're there. And the stories behind certain things. And I don't think you have to go back and read the bio of every person who wrote every Hillsong song. But I do think it's important for us to make sure, whether you are a 15-year-old worship leader in your youth group, or whether you are a 40-year seasoned pro in the twilight of your ministry, I think it's so important to make sure that we understand why we sing what we sing, because then you get to offer something of authenticity and honesty to the people that you're asking to come along with you as you're leading in worship. Also, open your eyes. I think that's see what people are doing out there. I mean, some guys get in their own little worship moment, and that's super sweet. But like these people out here are needing you to take them somewhere. If you can't see where you're going, then like. What are you doing? So see what they're doing, see where your church is, where the heartbeat is. I had a friend of mine that actually did a study in their church of hymns they've sung over the past 10 years. And they were able to put together, we sing a lot about this, grace, but we don't sing a whole lot about this. So he's trying to balance things out because he wants to change the heartbeat of his church. So I think it's just important to walk in authenticity and walk in honesty, whether that is seeing the people or selecting the songs or understanding what you're doing. And just make sure that when you walk off the stage, you can mean those songs just as much with your life as you can singing them out into a microphone for people to follow you along. That's a good leader.
Yeah. Micah, this has been so good.
Paul, such a joy, man.
Thank you for
sharing.
So
grateful. Absolutely.
Thank you for watching.
Yeah.
Take care.